All right, so we've got a quorum here, so we'll get the meeting started. I apologize, everyone, about the confusion. Samantha requested that we meet in person, and so I didn't make a Zoom link. And I know some people were looking for that, so that's on me. But we've got three of us here, and we forgot to bring the agenda here, and Bernadine's office is locked, so we can't make photocopies of it, but we got all the items that you guys submitted, so I was wondering if I could get a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda as you see it.
Okay, Dick, can I get a second? Second. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. And so we don't have the minutes in front of us, so I'm requesting that we just move that to the next meeting. So the first item that we have, Dick, we were hoping you could give just an update on the Three Rivers fire and just kind of where it's at and how it went. Yeah.
Now, the Three Rivers Fire, they did the exit interview with the Type 1 team yesterday, and they all left, but they left it with the Type 3 team. And they've still got some personnel there that are working on hot spots, and their focus is still on the south side where it drops over into the reservation a little ways, because that's one place. If it were to get a spark down that canyon, it'd come right back up under the ski lift. And so that's one thing they're really looking at. And then I think they've made pretty good progress on the north side of it, where it's could get out and burn some unburned material towards Nogales and back in that part of the country. But the general consensus is that they probably got it pretty well contained, unless we have some kind of a unexpected wind event or something that pushes some of those ashes out ahead of the fire or something like that. Then they're not really expecting anything else to happen on the fire. The thing that they know about the fire is that it started in the trail system above the campground over Three Rivers, and I don't know that it had to be person caused, because there wasn't any weather event that caused it, but they don't know the particulars, and that's still under investigation. And that's about all I know.
Did you do anything fun with your son here? I know he was working the whole time, but.
Yeah, I think so.
Did you get to visit?
Oh yeah, he stayed in the house several nights.
Good.
All right, so the next item is just a discussion on the Two Rivers Restoration Phases 3 and 4. So I got some exhibits here that have maps for the whole day. So this first page is a map of the Two Rivers Park area. So you can see we've got Sudderth, and then there's Robin Road. So the park is that big parcel that's on the south east side of the map. So Rodney's already worked with another firm and completed phases 1 and 2. But those two phases need some maintenance, and then Rodney and I feel like the vegetation management components of those projects really didn't achieve the objectives that they wanted. And so we've contracted with Riverbend Engineering, and they're going to be designing phases 3 and 4, which we'll get to, and then they're going to develop a management strategy for us to self-implement to improve the existing work that happened in phases 1 and 2, and then ways that we can improve the vegetation in that area. And so it's likely that we'll implement some fencing areas to encourage some of the vegetation growth and to keep some people out until the vegetation gets to an appropriate condition that it can survive.
Are you talking primarily about the willows and the stream sides vegetation, or?
Yeah, and even just some of those areas, there's, we're obviously going to need to keep little trails there so that we'll keep the areas where everyone's walking open, but the areas where there's only some people that are walking, but it's enough to hurt all the grass and stuff, we'll look at trying to restrict the traffic there to help get a good grass system, and then have appropriate riparian vegetation grow where it can grow. So for phases 3 and 4, so here's a picture of, Rodney, you've already seen this, so I'll give these. So I just had these to pass around, but there's a big retaining wall that is failing. It's just made out of railroad ties. It's not really an appropriate structure for that area. And then you can see the incising of the river where that concrete foundation is for that. So phase 3 is looking at excavating the river on the north side, so the side away from that retaining wall, to give more channel growth on that side. And then we'll look at putting in a natural boulder retaining system along the road there, so we can improve kind of the natural appearance of it, but then we can also repair that incision in the river there. So you can see the river dropped about a foot. We'll fix that with in-stream structures to help mitigate future incision in the river there.
Did the village do that a long time ago?
I'm not sure.
I would think that Mr. Durham did it.
Yeah, is that right by their house?
Yeah, it's right
That
before
old-
it, because he
yeah.
did all the landscaping,
Yeah.
and that's what I really think what happened.
Yeah.
So that's phase 3, and phase 4 is improving the fish habitat from the end of phase 2, which is a little bit downstream of that retaining wall, all the way up to the river crossing condos. If you can think, if you've hiked on that trail, basically right where the trail dead ends. And then there's a aerial utility crossing over the river. We'll go all the way up that. And so the task order is just to do preliminary design so that we can apply for grants for these. The first one being we're going to try to apply for the River Stewardship Fund for phase 4. And so that was some of the urgency and why we had Tim execute the task order, because we wanted to get Chris to start working on it right away so we could apply this spring. Otherwise, we're going to end up waiting for 18 months to implement anything. And he's already gone out with his surveyor and surveyed the area and is going to start developing that preliminary design. Miss anything, Rodney?
No, sounds good. Can't wait. Hope we get
Is there any need for any right-of-way clearing as far as getting rid of some of the elm trees and some of those kind of things along that stretch of Robin Road that you're going to be working?
I think it would probably be good for us to look at how we can remove and replace the elm trees with other appropriate riparian species.
Well, I've got some money for clearing right-of-ways, and if you want to wait till the study's done, we can do that. But we could maybe get some of it cleared if we want to.
It definitely is a messy area, so,
I kind of think we should.
Yeah.
A lot of it, we've kind of done some work over the years, and so what's there is, I believe, one or the two. It's really small or it's really large. But there's not many really large ones, I can't even recall. So it would be like minor maintenance if you do it now, you know, versus waiting and letting the trees get bigger.
Well, that was kind of the idea of doing that there around Sutton, just because of the homeless people and the drugs going on there and that kind of stuff. We took out quite a number of smaller elm.
I think it would be a good idea
Yeah.
to, because I mean, our intention is that we'll want to get some cottonwoods and stuff restored in that area. And so it'd be nice to clear up the canopy for those species.
Well, we can go take a look at it, or you can make a recommendations where you want to go, and then we'll look at it, or whatever you want to do. Some of those big old elm trees have got branches that are kind of decadent, that are overhanging the road too. That
Yeah.
might be another consideration.
Yeah, there's that middle stretch where the bridge is by Durham's, where there's some of those elms that are kind of hanging in the road.
I mean, I think that the intent is for us to get rid of all of the elms. It's just a matter of we don't want to go in and clear cut the whole riparian area because it's 100% elms. So I think, you know, I think we can schedule something to just take a walk through that stretch, and maybe we can do some preliminary flagging of areas to focus in on.
Okay, well, whenever we want to do that, we can. We got plenty of right-of-ways that need clearing.
All right, so the next one, Rodney, is the, oops, sorry, I put the maps out of order. I was desperately trying to get this done before lunch, so I made some mistakes. So there's a contour map that's right past the grindstone stuff. So Rodney, do you want to just explain your parking lot area and then kind of talk about our possible solution?
So, as you all, I believe are aware, I applied for some funding, to pave about 3/4 of the, parking lots around the sports complex. As you can see from the topo map, the majority of the water runs, on each side of each of the fields. And so, part of our plan was when we paved that, we realized that we would increase the runoff in those areas. And so we're working again with, Eric is presenting a task order, I believe, at this council meeting to task, Chris with, designing a system that could capture that water before it dumps out into the river. We had, done a walkthrough to evaluate, what looked, feasible as far as to capture the water. And there's really limited space in those areas, before the river, so we looked at, a type of, like an infiltration system, that's similar to a leach field in a septic tank with, infiltration, basins. And so, we'll be working with him for the design to implement, a system at the entrance to the complex between the first and second field. And then I'm not quite certain what we decided between the, second and third field.
I think, so between the second and third, it's gonna be gravel. And so we felt it would be rather difficult to maintain a underground stormwater catchment system with the potential for the coming in from the gravel lot. So I think we were gonna look at bypassing that. But,
Is this the third field?
Yes.
Thank you, I thought that I was.
So-
right there.
so basically, you know, you can imagine that at the top side of the fields, imagine that there'll be like one pipe that's wrapping around in ground on the top side, just a straight pipe. And then that will fill up with water, and then it will allow it to soak in. And
So
so,
it has little holes,
yep.
Yes.
basically.
And so then with the the oils and other contaminants from there, when they're in soil and have contact with soil, they'll eventually degrade and be dealt with under there, versus it just going straight to the creek and then potentially right into the Alto Reservoir.
So all these little squiggly, that's the way the water's gonna go?
So each one of those squiggle lines is 1 foot in elevation change. So
Oh, okay.
you can see that the fields are relatively flat, but you can imagine the parking lot, it's kind of slipping out there. The other thing too, Rodney, and Chris and I talked a little bit after you left at that field visit, is we did think about potentially adding just a small berm right with your fence. And then if there's any runoff from the fields, like if you just fertilize and you got a rain, it would keep that right there. But it shouldn't, it won't be enough that it's like gonna hold water to sit on the field.
I think it's a good idea.
So that this, in between the second and third fields, we're not gonna pave that?
No,
It's just gonna be-
because that's needed for the snow play area. The pavement will melt the snow too quickly.
So so the third field is where everything is? The snow,
Yeah, that gravel parking area between the second and third field is where the chutes come down from the hill.
oh, okay, I thought it was all over here by the,
No,
The
and,
first one.
and you can see here on this map, especially with the topo map, you can see the little chutes.
yeah, I see it. Okay.
And that roller coaster thing's
Kind
gonna,
of calculated that cost of the design into the paving, whenever we were planning it, and so that's where the task order that Eric's bringing up, that's what it's gonna be funded by, is that, funding that I had requested from Lodgers Tax.
So the 400,000
Yeah.
isn't just paving, it's also other things.
Majority of it is paving, but some of it was the design, this watershed features, and then, once we get the design, the intention is to try to build it in-house, and so we may have the engineer supervise the project, but it's a
Yeah.
relatively simple, process.
Okay.
And so, because of the nature of the flows, the parking lots are basically graded in the direction that they need to go. So Rodney will be able to just move forward with the paving project, and then we'll do this in the fall, after it won't interfere with his operations, and then, once his staff are more available in the fall, we'll be able to construct it.
With the winter, and us parking on this field, does that create a different problem? Or it,
It potentially could. We have a maintenance program that we follow every spring, is we, aerate the fields, and that's really what it is compaction. When the majority of the time, he's parking on the fields when the ground is frozen. He's not really parking when it's saturated wet, because that's when it would really cause compaction.
Okay.
We've done it for about 5 years now,
Yeah.
and we really haven't had an issue. But we reseed it and aerate it every spring, to try to alleviate the compaction issues.
maybe the horses could go on there to,
they spend some time out there too.
Yeah, they do.
do they? Okay.
All right. So the next item,
Are we gonna be able to do that this year?
That's the goal.
yeah. So the next item is the erosion control and wetlands at Grindstone Canyon. So, it's on the previous section, so we're looking at like this map here. So we've all reviewed this map before, but I just wanted to put it out there again. So we've got a task order on this council meeting for Chris Phillips to help us do the design work for the erosion control structures. And then I put money in the water utilities budget to help fund for the material needs for the project. And then we're going to look at building this in-house as a collaboration between the water utility and Parks and Rec. And so these are the proposed structures. There's also some other work that's being proposed in the master plan. So the master plan is going to be kind of our guiding document. But this shows some of the design work. And, you know, before when we reviewed it, Dick, we had talked about, you know, potentially using downed our tree logs and stuff to create some of the erosion control structures. And so it would probably be good if we, the three of us, were all there for our kickoff meeting with Chris, just so that we can talk about our ideas and potential thoughts on these structures and how to implement them. But the main thing is just to make sure they're of a type that we can do in-house and are comfortable doing in-house.
Is the stairs part of the erosion control?
I mean, it's part of erosion control, but that's gonna be separate,
Yeah.
part
okay.
of our separate project.
We're talking about taking natural resources and helping with the,
Yeah, so this project is gonna emphasize the like greater watershed erosion.
okay.
It's not gonna emphasize the immediate area. So we'll implement erosion control when those components are added. So it's likely when we do like a paving project there, we want to make sure that we have the erosion control structures that are dealing with the runoff from the road incorporated into that project.
Okay.
And part of the thing is that with that subdivision being developed up above there and the roads up there, it sheds more water than it would if it was in a natural state. So there's got to be some additional.
Yeah.
And that's the area that we're having the biggest impact, is those drainages off of that subdivision.
Sure.
So, Rodney, do you have an idea of when you think this would be the best to look at doing some of this construction work, or?
As far as our staff,
Yeah,
well, between October and February,
is the best time?
yeah.
Okay. And so we'll see, once we get the design work done, it might be something where we have some water utility staff start on some stuff that might be critical right away, but, a lot of the stuff on the outside, it can definitely wait.
We can also, if the opportunity presents itself earlier than October, we could potentially work with the eco servants, and so we could supervise them and have them do some of the,
Okay,
especially if they have their summer cruise.
okay,
They like a mixture, they like getting away from trails every now and then.
sure.
If we do happen to get the eco servants over there, it might include seeding that road that we built up there too. If we can buy some seed, they could seed and rake that in and probably help that out a lot.
All right, any other comments, concerns? Once we get the task order approved, next week I'll look to schedule a Zoom kickoff meeting with Chris. Okay, next item is the Joint Chiefs project with the Forest Service. So it's the map after the ball fields. It will look like this. So we all met with the Forest Service. Samantha, me, Rodney, Dick was there. And we went through and marked out the locations on Eagle Creek where we'll implement structures. And so the white structures, those are one rock check dams. And don't be deceived by the one rock word. It's not just one rock, it's one rock tall. So we'll have big boulders, but it will just be one tall, and then we'll build a dam across the way.
Where is this, Eric?
So this is on the west side of the ball field. So here's the driveway to the sports complex. And then this is that stretch. Yep, and then this is that stretch, and then
Going up
over
towards
here
the
is Scott Maynard's RV park.
Okay, got it, yeah.
So, so we've got 9 one rock check structures in there. And then the other structure that we're looking at doing is what's called a beaver dam analog. And we've got 7 of those. And so the beaver dam analogs, they're not meant to be, they're not like a dam. They're not meant to, hold back water and make a pond. They're meant to slow down water so that it starts backing up and it starts allowing sediment and stuff to drop out. And it will encourage riparian vegetation to grow. And then it will also encourage the channel to start its natural process of meandering again. So it's going to restore that kind of living channel. And so the BDAs are basically cedar fence posts. And so you pound in cedar fence posts about 1.5 feet apart from each other all the way across the channel. And then in between it, you weave like willow branches and cottonwood branches in there, and you basically create this faux beaver dam. And then you can you'll pack some mud and gravel along the bottom side of it, and then you'll put a little bit of larger cobble on the downstream side, so when water is pouring over it, it doesn't create a cut. But it will still let the water flow through it, but it will slow it down substantially. And so in areas where there are actually beavers out there, beaver dam analogs oftentimes attract beavers, but there isn't any beavers in this area, so it's not likely that there would be any beavers that would come in after the fact. But these structures are going to be, the BDAs are really material light. The only materials that you're buying are the cedar posts, but then the rest of it you're trying to find materials that are right there or nearby. So the Forest Service is buying, or has bought, they've got like a fence post pounder, like a hydraulic pounder, that will vibrate the posts in the ground. And they're looking at doing more BDAs throughout the forest. And so this would be a good opportunity for us to partner with these kind of soft structures that are really easy to install. And honestly, when we install these, we'll probably have a handful of people in the village that are knowledgeable enough to just construct them in-house. And so we could look at other areas that might potentially benefit
So
from structures.
the Forest Service are gonna do these BDAs?
So the Forest Service, the Forest Service is paying for all the materials for this out of the grant. And then they're gonna help with the construction aspect. What we're contributing is I'm doing all of the permitting process. And then we're gonna have our crews out there to help construct them.
That's pretty interesting.
And so this is funding that we got from the Joint Chiefs grant that we partnered with the Forest Service on. So I'm working on the permitting process for this. it was my goal to work on this week, and then that didn't happen. So it's got to be my priority next week, because then we'll look at constructing this this summer. The intent is to do it this summer. Any questions, concerns? I think, Susan, you were the only person who wasn't out there when we laid it out, so I think everyone else knows about it. Okay, so discussion on riparian improvements below Alto Reservoir. So I put in, this next map is the area that's below Alto Reservoir. Alto Reservoir would be just off the map, but this is that channel where we have the hiking path around there. So, Chris Parrish with the Army Corps, he came out to do some other inspections, like on Benito Reservoir. And so he wanted to meet with me, and we were talking about the DOT's mitigation, wetland mitigation that they have still from the Highway 70 expansion. And so they had that failed project on Mescalero that they spent a lot of money on, and if it's failed and they've given up on that, we were trying to work with the school district to look at expanding and enhancing the wetlands that are there on Hull and Warrior Drive, but that has kind of fallen through. And so in the whole time of this project, I was always pushing that I thought that below Alto Reservoir could be a good mitigation area, because it's a really open area. There's sections where you can tell that there was a big braided channel and there was a lot of floodplain, but that channel's since cut in a little bit, and it's from a combination of the roads that were put in there, but then also you have these dike formations where, some of them have fallen, and I think you have these natural head cuts that are going through the creek there. And so Chris thought that it would be a good idea so that we could get the DOT to pay for a project and then maintain it in perpetuity, that he thought it would be a good investment for us to look at developing a preliminary design and presenting it to the DOT, because I've always intended on us working on this area anyways. We have 3 wells in this area, and it would be beneficial to them to have better hydrology in the area. And so I was just wondering what your guys' thoughts were on the potential of funding something like that. I've got some extra money for watershed projects from that we had put aside for some match for the 2 rivers. Because remember, we applied for 2 rivers a year ago, and so I haven't spent that money.
I would definitely support it as well, especially if it opens us up to the potential DOT funding. It could be an awesome project.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be our project, it'd just be, we would say, hey, DOT, we'll let you use our land, we'll get the benefits of it, but they'll get all the payment for it.
Yeah.
Okay, Dick, do you have any thoughts? It's kind of, we've already thinned that area. It's basically, the area that we're looking at is kind of that area where there's all the cottonwoods and all the willows that are dying because the creek is starting to cut in there a little bit.
No, not really. Our implementation area is in that area for this year too. We're rethinning all the private properties in there. We're doing quite a number of our roadside thinning in there, but we don't have any larger projects that are scheduled for that area.
Okay. All right, well, I have talked to Chris a little bit about it, but I'll ask him to put together a proposal.
Does Chris have a relationship with any of those gentlemen we've previously spoken with DOT?
Chris Phillips with Riverbend? I can ask him.
I was just curious.
I don't think so. I mean, Chris mainly does, work with NMED and Game and Fish. He does a lot of work for the state, but I don't think he does anything with DOT. Well, I'll check.
Could Ron help with that? He has a lot of,
You
Well-
know, Eric and I and Ron had all worked towards that project, if you remember. It's just we couldn't get the school to
yep,
get
Yeah.
on board.
yep.
We know the people at DOT.
Sure.
We're just seeing if maybe Chris could just broach that topic with them and
Sure.
do the preliminary design to make sure it meets their objectives. But this would probably be the last effort to get this project done in the area. The wetlands that were destroyed were in Ruidoso Downs. And so if we can't figure out something here, they're just gonna do it in the Pecos River Basin. And so it will just be, it'll just be far away from here and have no real benefits to us.
Okay.
All right, Rodney, I think we touched some of your stuff, but if there's anything that we missed on your item, you had parks projects, Alto, Grindstone, disc golf, wetlands, Eagle Creek paving.
Yeah, I was just giving an update on all those. I think, the only ones we really didn't touch on was the wetland, the disc golf course.
Okay,
I know those guys were working on some of the maintenance on some of those structures. Just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that they had performed that work. They replanted a few of the cottonwoods and fenced them off. And they have the materials to provide a more kind of aesthetic improvement on the tree barriers, but it's on the list to do.
okay. I haven't seen the stump sprout yet, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Cross our fingers. So the trees that got eaten up by the elk, we just cut them down to the ground and we're just hoping that they'll
Yeah.
re-sprout.
Yeah.
And they re-fenced them again, but like, I said, and they're working on some more attractive, instead of T-posts, using some, like landscape timbers. We have the supplies, some of that was funded through, I believe, the grant to the Keep It Oh So Beautiful. But they did fence them off and do some replanting. Yeah, they're tough on it.
All right. So Dick, we've got your item, right-of-way thinning projects in ballpark number 3.
Yeah, basically, we've done 18 right-of-ways since the first of the year, and we're continuing to do 1 or 2 a week. And we're trying to do a lot of them in the implementation area, because we have people that thin their property that say, well, why are you not thinning yours? So we are kind of focused in that area, but we have done some all over town. And if you guys got any place where you got some tight areas or some dog hair thickets or something where it impedes the visual aspect or it's causing any problems, well, let us know, and we're gonna have another 50,000 next year to do some right-of-way clearing too. So that's about it. We made kind of a push to do that this year. And so the other project that, I'll just go ahead and get it, probably got about 2, maybe 3 weeks left on that second project of thinning up above the ballparks. And right now we're in a fiscal year talk with Judy about when to let the third one. So that's kind of the direction we're going. And after that, we're probably going to move across the street and do some thinning up above Alto Lake, or at least on the north side of that watershed down through there.
Did our trees that we got from the church, are those all working okay? Are they growing?
Yeah, there is a few that died, but
Yeah.
there was pretty good survivability in Grindstone with those willows. So, Dick, you also say, have a discussion on forestry project similarities and dissimilarities.
Yeah, we're into a little bit of a discussion with Judy in finance. There's a state statute that says if you have similar projects, you got to treat them like one project, and which makes some of the projects multiply and go over the $60,000 limit where you have to go with the formal bids and those kind of things. We haven't been doing that, but it's all in the interpretation of similar projects. Judy is saying that anything that uses a chainsaw and cuts a tree is similar to another project, and nothing could be further from the truth. You got different densities, you got different tree sizes, you got different slopes, different species of trees, all in all in all. And so the interpretation is not good, I think. And checking with the other resource management people that thin trees and those kind of things, nowhere else in the state is as interpreted as that. And so that's one of the things that's holding up on this third contract at the ballpark is we may have to go to a formal bid with a $30,000 project, which is not very efficient.
Sure.
Not very effective.
No, we have similar issues. So they're just looking at it from the perspective of that you have this contiguous piece of land that are touched, because we've had discussions where it's like, well, you're doing this same work, but we're doing it at 10 different like well houses. And so we've been able to say, well, these are geographically distinct in different locations, and that's worked out. But it can be tough to kind of make those determinations of what.
Well, who gets to make those determinations? It should be the resource specialists that make those determinations. If it's a similar project, it shouldn't be finance people that don't know what's going on out in the woods. So,
Well,
at least that's my perspective. And so, essentially, they're worried about having a finding or something. And we've been doing the same thing ever since I've been here, and we haven't had any findings on it. And it's really naive to say that all thinning projects or all tree cutting projects are the same. It's not there. Even out at the ballpark where we are, we've got some areas of cut and leave the trees there, and we got some areas that we're hauling everything out, and all of that requires different equipment. It calls different skid links for the logs, and all those things vary, and they affect the price that you get bid for those kind of things. And so, in my perspective, with the terrain we've got around here, it's really hard to find a similar project unless it's on the same slope and the same aspect and the same stand of trees.
Sure.
So, anyway, that's kind of.
Do you think that you can take them out to show them how they're dissimilar, or?
With COVID running around and the
Sure.
effect it's had on them, I hadn't had the chance yet, but that's my next step. And it may be something we have to get Tim involved in to make the call.
Yeah.
Well, if there's anything that I can do to help you, Dick, it makes sense to.
Well, I might visit with you some more on it since you've already gone through part of that battle.
Sure. Alrighty, next item is round robin. I don't know how much we'll actually have, because we've kind of beat everything up. So Rodney, you wanna,
Can't think of anything else.
well, you didn't talk about your bridge.
Oh, the bridge. Where are we on the permitting?
Nowhere yet.
Was that on my list?
Yeah, it is.
What
So
bridge?
the Alto Lake project,
Uh-huh.
so Eric and I have been working, of course, he's gonna, apply for all the permitting, but we visited with Army Corps, and we got clarifications from the Dam Safety Bureau, is that right?
Yes.
For the placement of all those items.
Yeah,
We scheduled the stairs, which, we got clarification prior to initiating that, and so we met with the contractor today, they're gonna start the stair project next week, but we're waiting on, I believe, the comment period, for the placement of the bridge and the dock. And that's probably 90 to 120 days out, to go through that process, but,
and so the bridge is gonna go across what?
the diversion channel that goes
Yep.
from that sediment or catchment pond, sediment
Yep.
pond before, so it'll cross, that,
And is that gonna be the kids' pond?
yes.
Got it. Okay,
And so we're just in the process of waiting on.
so we'll go.
But this is the first permit that we're getting under the new process with the changes of the EPA. And so, it's a 90-day minimum, and it has to go through a full process. And the Army Corps is stressed about it, NMED is stressed about it. NMED might end up suing the Army Corps over it. So I am being supportive of both entities as to the extent possible. They've both been super helpful in trying to navigate this new process, but right now there's 12 nationwide permits that are under this new process, and then next year all of them will go to that. And so all of them will likely have a 90-day minimum period.
That's rough.
I also talked with the Army Corps today, and, you know, they're having a hard time with the new permit process too, but, I did get the heads up that there's gonna be kind of more, when they catch a violation, it's likely that the ramifications will be stricter, and there won't be as much kind of handshake, like, let's fix this. It's gonna be gotta go through the formal violation process. So at the next directors meeting, I was gonna give everyone's a heads up that they need to make sure that their staff are not operating in jurisdictional areas without a permit, and we'll make sure that we're not catching a violation for anything.
How are you looking at?
You're the one who messes around with it.
But, other than that, I really don't have any.
You don't have anything going on.
No. I got another meeting in a minute.
Yeah, so I don't have anything else to talk about it. Dick, do you have anything else?
No,
Okay.
we just sent out 700 more letters to our implementation area, a second reminder.
Oh, boy.
So it'll be up.
You guys gonna be,
Hopefully there'll be a lot of business in the next 6 months, so we'll see.
you guys are gonna wear out Frank Potter his first month, taking a bunch of people to court.
Well, it'll be fall before he starts
Okay.
getting involved, but
All right. Susan, you got anything?
No, I'm not at all.
Okay.
Just listening.
Alrighty, well, we will adjourn this meeting. Our next meeting will be June 3rd. We'll probably try to do another in-person meeting, but I will send out a Zoom invite just in case. But the next meeting won't be here. Can't tell you where it's gonna be, but it won't be here.
So I got a joke here, she's gonna be the one taking minutes for you.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is, we need to get a change in our meeting resolution for whatever the location that we're having the meetings at. So, Ron is supposed to send that out once he gets
Yeah.
the location finalized.
I thought it was Courtney, but
That's where I'm thinking, but I don't think anything until it's actually
that's-
set. All right, this meeting is adjourned.
Hey, Rodney, did
Yes, ma'am.
your father? Oh.